So there was like a lot of this like just deep exploration, and I reached out to the person that was caretaking and said, I want to know more. And I basically just I just introduced myself and said I want to learn. I don't know about this, but I'm interested in the topic.
Hmm.
Please consider me. Like, I basically felt like I was going through an interview. Um, and the thing
So,
too is like I didn't ask questions. All I asked was I wanted to study and learn and share the information. And well, whatever. We are here now. You know what I mean? Like we are all learning together. So I want to make a couple statements. Like I don't
so,
claim to know everything. All I want to do is learn and share the information together. You know what I mean? I've been doing this already. I go on live and I talk and share and we get zooms ups and take pictures, and it's been a really wonderful experience for me and my community, or the little community that I'm building.
It's amazing for you to share this with us. Thank you.
thank you, man. Right, I'm
Um,
gonna, I'm
Quick
gonna
question.
ancestral.
introduce.
Where are you in the States? Where are you from? Just can I ask that?
Yeah, I'm from Hawaii.
So
Oh,
my ancestral,
Yeah, I'm from Hawaii. I was in the army for 20 years. I'm a retired soldier, medic.
I
oh,
can
So,
maybe help you with that stone thing because it's not as a bone.
so you might be
Stones,
picking up on like all the other like
Hmm.
languages, because I was around so many other people that spoke a bunch of different languages and stuff. So I have a weird language style.
yeah, I was trying to figure that out.
so back in the day, stones used to hold tones as well as memory, and bones used to hold the memory of the marrow. So the ancient tribes used to carve things into bone to hold the memory
I
of the.
recognize Jason. I think he's a follower. What's up,
He's,
Jason?
yeah,
Can I?
Jason. Thank you for joining. You're on mute, Jason. You've
Hello,
muted yourself.
Jason.
Yeah.
Hi, Jason. Thanks. I've been waiting to speak with you for a very long time. You're aware. I am an experiencer up close and
For
personal.
real, are you?
And I know through your demeanour, through your voice, that you are an experiencer too. Because it isn't about what you said, it's about what I felt. So, my question to you, I know you've experienced it, but the story that you're giving us isn't the whole
Taz,
truth.
we can't hear you.
Yeah,
Taz,
we're having difficulty hearing you.
Taz,
Apologies.
it is all muffled. Okay. Can you hear me now?
That's better.
Okay. Jason, firstly, I want to say thank you for joining us this evening. I've been waiting for a very long time to speak with you. I am an experiencer, as you know. I feel people's feelings, and I know when I speak the first time that it wasn't about what you said. I could feel your experience. I could feel it in the words that you said. But my question is, why is it that you've not told us the truth about what you experienced, and why there is a story around what you experienced?
Is anybody else able to
Taz,
hear what
you're
you're
breaking
asking?
up terrible.
She keeps
You're
going in and
going
out. I don't know if
massive.
everybody's muted, so I don't know what's going on.
That's better. Can you hear me now, Jason?
Yeah, that's much clearer.
Ah, that's better. Did you hear my question?
No, I only got like bits and pieces.
Okay, I'll start again.
Shiv, mute yours a sec. It might be the static from yours.
Let me mute. I'll mute myself.
Okay. So firstly, I want to say thank you for coming on this evening. I've waited an awful long time to speak with you. I am an experiencer too, as you know, with the Penturk incident, that I believe you know a little bit more about. And when I first heard you speak, It wasn't the story that you were telling. It was the feeling that I had from you, that I know that you've experienced. It's not about the story that you told, because that's not the whole truth. And that came across shouting volumes to me. So my question is really, why did you have to manipulate a story around your experience and not tell us the whole truth?
Well, if you want to call it manipulation, it was more just there's a lot to this, and you kind of have. It's one of those things where you have to introduce things, like even when you're taking a college class, you have to start off with basic thoughts, and then you move on to the more higher end thoughts as you go through the class before you get to the graduation. You get your master's degree or your doctorates, whatever. So that's really what it is. It's not really all of that. On the very early stages, I was still going through quite a lot of all the wickets, the legal wickets for what I could say publicly. As you know, I lost my clearance for over a year. Finally got that back. So whoever started that mess has probably been told to back off of me now. So I'm very happy that whoever got my clearance back in active status I'm very happy about that. And that's really what's been getting in the way is people telling me one way or the other, that, oh, you can't say everything because of this, that, and the other. I've had people challenge me on a lot of different points about, oh, well, we think that everything to do with the NHI is classified. I'm like, really? I never heard that. I was actually in the program. Nobody ever said that. So there's a lot of different things. It's mainly just people and their imaginations that I also have to be careful of, because people I say one thing and then all of a sudden I hear 10 different things come back, and some of it's like complete, like, where did that come from? And some of it's just plain, misunderstanding, and then I can clarify that kind of stuff and we can move on. But some people, so it's a lot of different things. Whenever you're a public figure, you have to deal with all of that. And that's kind of what I've held back. Now, when it comes to the spiritual side to this, that's a very personal thing for a lot of people. And I have held back on a lot of that until recently. And I didn't want to offend anybody. So let me put it that way, because I know everybody has their own belief systems. I have mine. So, hopefully if I don't step on your toes, you won't step on mine. And, that's why I've kept my mouth shut, but I actually got very blatantly honest in a space recently on X with UFO Sarah and several other folks. But if you talk to the whistleblowers that I know, we've all discussed very spiritual things about this phenomenon. It's like one goes with the other. So those are all the different reasons why I'm holding back. The other thing is the reality of other civilizations. There is a depth to this that nobody's ready to hear. I mean, you guys probably have seen a ton of movies where aliens want to eat us, so they want to kill us, so they want to do this or that, and you get a very quick glance of their planetary systems, but that doesn't capture what's really going on. These are people just like us, and there's a depth to that even I can't fathom all of it. All I caught were glimpses of it while I was in the program. And so I don't know everything, and that's another reason why it's like, yeah, I can give you my opinion, but then, if you're going to tear me apart just because I have an opinion, then I'll just shut my mouth, and that's kind of how it goes. So there's a lot of reasons why, but mainly it's because, some of this stuff is good for disclosure, some is good just for talking about the subject, and other parts of it are very personal. And I'd say that that's kind of summing it all up as to why I'm holding back on certain things from time to time.
That's what I'm picking up on, because I too had a very spiritual, almost soul recognition with the craft that I was involved with. In fact, there were multiple craft, as you know. So my second question to you is, what do you know about the Penturk incident?
Fill me in a little bit. I get a lot of stuff thrown at me. So what part of it do you want me to speak to?
One, were you involved? And what do you know about it regarding the pyramid craft, the smaller craft that were jettisoned, and the green craft that they shot down in an ambush?
Um, oh, that one. Well, the triangular craft that I have experienced, I believe, were part of in the 1990s a hybrid sort of a propulsion, and they hadn't perfected it yet. It took another 10 to 20 years of them doing some things. Now we know them as the TR3s and so on. That's the one I'm familiar with. They are triangular. I think there are at least two different variants. One's a smaller craft. The other one's about the size of a football field. And as you've heard from the other whistleblowers, I know the other whistleblowers personally, and we have talked at length about this craft. So you also know that in America that our congresspeople, our congressmen and women both went down to Eglin Air Force Base where there apparently was a lot of triangular craft sightings. I can attest to the fact that I live in Gulf Breeze, which is just down the road from Eglin Air Force Base, and I've had at least three, maybe four different sightings of my own, and I believe one or two of those was with some of my family members in the car while I was living there around the Eglin Air Force Base area. I believe that from the 1990s when I was in the program till the 2000s and 2020s, that craft has gone on and become operationalized. I think the reason that I saw it so many times around Eglin Airspace is that maybe a training base or they're testing it. I know Eglin is a big testing, has a lot of testing facilities. They get, hyperbaric chambers, places where they can test, the skins of aircraft and stuff like that for how they react to cold weather and hot weather and whatnot. So there's a lot of reasons why they would have a lot of different test aircraft down that way. And I believe that the triangular craft is one of them amongst many. So that's what I know about the triangular craft or the pyramid type craft. Yes, I've seen it. I'm convinced it's a hybrid. At least in my mind, I think it's a hybrid from what I know. And that's what I'll say about it.
Well, the one that I saw was far larger than the TR3B. This was 960 feet per side and a tetrahedron.
Yeah.
What do you know about the weaponry that they use to shoot them down?
It's mainly electromagnetic or directed energy weapons at high wavelengths, and that's what mainly they've been using. I believe that there have been countermeasures by the NHI to stop that from happening because I think from Roswell to now, there's been different things used to try to down these craft so that they can take them and do whatever they feel like they want to do to them. And I think the NHI also got involved in the program mainly because they wanted to stop the humans from imprisoning the occupants at a certain point. And I think that's one of the reasons why maybe the triangular craft are now operational, is that the NHI have a mutual mission area that not only do the humans want to get there on the retrievals, but the NHI want to get there too to make sure there's no more, criminality against their own civilizations going on. So it's kind of a mutual area where both the program people and the NHI want to get there first. One, us to try to grab technology. The other ones are mainly to protect the retrieval. And
What I had contact with were conscious, were living things, not necessarily technology, but craft themselves.
I'm losing you again.
Jeff, mute up, mate.
I said, the craft that
Yeah, it sounds like there's some bubbles or something in the background.
You're breaking up. I don't know why.
Jeff, mute yourself, babe. That's better. The craft that I had contact with were living things. They were not ships necessarily. They were conscious. They communicated. They were afraid. And we are connected to them on a spiritual level, on almost a soul recognition, like we are a part of them and they're very much a part of us. What do you know about these NHI? Because they're not aliens necessarily, and there were no occupants, but yet we shot them down anyway. So
Yeah, there's an entire history that I ponder sometimes. If you just want to talk about my days in the program, I had one impression, and that was just that they were kind of victims at that point. Sorry, but that they were kind of victims at that point, the NHI that is. And hang on a minute, let me see if I can get my camera to work a little bit better up here. So if you talk to me back in the program days, that's my impression. Now, if you talk to me about NHI that me and my family encountered in childhood and going up into my teen years before I got in the Air Force, it was very benevolent, almost angelic. They were always protective of both me and my family. So it was like they were protecting me while I was growing up. And my family members for that matter. So there's another impression I have about the NHI there, but the ones that I encountered mostly were the Nordics, and or what I think are called the Nordics, but they had platinum hair. They stand about 5 foot tall. Both the ones that I saw had blue eyes. They had, light colored, skin like a Caucasian, human would look like. Standing about 5 foot tall, like I said, and they both wore the same sort of silvery jumpsuits with sashes around their waist. Then there were the other ones that were really strange looking. There was one that looked like a cherub when I was very small. That one entered my room and my bedroom when I was a small child. And my mother and father both came in the room right after that because I went screaming out of the room. There's a huge butterfly on my bed. So I've had that encounter. And then later on in life, I saw all the different types of UAP. And my encounter in the desert, that was with what people have said is like a tall white or a hybrid type being that's working inside the program. And he was very civilized. He actually referred to the people in the program as being barbaric. And I can tell you that that was kind of the feeling I got when I was in the program as well, that whenever the NHI were mentioned to be part of the laboratory environments, they did not want to see a single human in the lab while they were there doing their thing.
didn't you say the one that you met in the desert had blue skin?
Well, it was not blue. It was like my skin, but with a blue undertone, like I was, as if I was freezing. So all these pictures of the entity that I met in the desert that show like this really bright blue guy, no, it's not what I saw. It's more like, you or I being very cold. That's what it looks like.
Whilst you were in the program, because the tall whites are allegedly working on these space programs, including the 3 large ships that we do have, the United States has in space, where they've been exchanging personnel for since at least 2003. And the Nordics are the ones that do not share technology with us. And they very much hold the reins when it comes to technology in these deep space vehicles. What do you know about that?
Well, again, getting back to the laboratory environments, every time the NHI were in a laboratory environment, it was very obviously did not want to touch anything to do with the weapon system. All they were there for was to help set up the equipment to get as best a test result as possible. Like if we were testing some new stealth technology that makes aircraft invisible, the only thing they would do is try to make the test environment very pristine, and then they would leave, but they would not touch the aircraft or any of the other things that were part of the weapon system. So it's not this free-for-all thing. The NHI, in my impression, while I was in the program, they did not want us to have full access to their technologies. Every time they were working with us, it was very controlled and managed. The NHI managed it and controlled the entire environment. Otherwise, they walked away. You know, they literally, if the humans got
Hey, Jason.
stupid, that's how it went.
Jason, how are you doing, bud? Sorry, I have a question. How did they interact? So, what was their means of communication? In all the different ones.
For me, it was telepathic and audio.
When you said audio, what was that?
They spoke, and they also telepathically, you know, because at least in my encounter in the desert with the hybrid or the tall white, there was both components. When he spoke another language, yet mentally I understood everything he said. So there was both of those components.
So you heard another language. It's not like you translated it or heard any English like in an accent or anything like that.
No, absolutely none. It actually sounded like Swedish, kind of a language with, you know, that kind of a language that
The voice
had a lot of different vowel sounds in it.
They're not here though. They're not extraterrestrial, are they?
It's the voice. It's what's portrayed in his head, isn't it? Yeah, right. It's the voice that shoots the body. Like as we say, we always look Icelandic or Swedish, something like that. So the voice is saying, right, that he's hearing in his head, right, is a combination of that. You know, that's how we're speaking. Like the voice shoots the body, the image. You know what I mean? If it has a little mouse would be going squeak, squeak, squeak. You know,
Yeah. Jason understood the aliens better.
Yeah. So it's one of those things where when I was speaking, he was silent. He was very polite. You know, just like we have, you know, etiquette. You know, you don't step on each other when you talk and all that kind of good stuff. When the intel community folks that were interviewing me before I went to testify, they pressed me on the method of communication. The only way, I guess the best that I got to describe it is, as I'm speaking to you right now, I'm relating the meaning of every word, which is at an emotional type level, because the meaning of a word is like an emotion. And it comes just before you speak because your mouth is slower than the way you think. And the way I remember the communication with this individual in the desert is that I kind of received what meaning was about ready to be spoken, even though it wasn't in my language. I knew what he was saying because he was relaying to me that emotional level understanding, even though I didn't understand his language. So
Could you feel tone, or was there like? Could you feel the tone of language, like the nonverbal communication, like you know?
Yes, yes, there was emotional content, especially when I mentioned to you that he said that because he needed to repair his craft, and when I said, well, Groom Lake is just over the mountains there, that's when I got hit by this very raw emotion of disgust. And I had to have the wherewithal to realize it wasn't me being disgusted, it was him, but it felt like it came from me as well. So when you're linked up telepathically like that, you're actually sharing emotions as well as, the words themselves. And they feel just like when we're talking right now. Sometimes I'm just talking very stoically. Other times I can be very livid or angry or disgusted. And I felt all of those things. But for him, his mind and his control of his emotions was much more civilized than mine. I was floating in between fear and wanting to run at times away from him. And then other times, I would calm down. So I felt like a mess compared to the way he just had a very ordered mind and civilized mind. That was the feeling that I get when I talk to him.
So is it almost like, if you come across like an animal, right, like a dog or something that you don't know, like a scared dog that's like kind of like timid, right? Like we're the higher order animal, right? So we're calm. We're like, hey, I don't have any fear of like of you because like I know what the situation is and I'm in control here? Is it maybe because they're give them the credit of being that much higher order that they don't feel that fear? Like I don't want to say we're the dog in this situation, but what I am
No,
saying is that
I
like,
would say
they know how things work and
no. It's more the feeling I got was just that's the way he was raised. I mean, think about this: if we were all in this space right now, able to telepathically converse. If you can imagine being an infant and learning how to communicate that way, our minds would not be the mess that they are now. Because think about it. I mean, a lot of guys will walk down the street and they see a pretty girl and they're like, oh, squirrel, squirrel, squirrel. You know, our minds are all over the stinking place compared to them. Because for them, everybody can hear what you're doing because mentally they can tune in. So you learn how to be very controlled with your thoughts at a very young age. So if you can imagine us having that kind of experience and how disciplined our minds would have to be, that not only when we spoke were we civilized and orderly, but also our thoughts were that way too, because we're sharing thoughts. And, you know, I don't want to be sitting there thinking weird things while you're speaking to me, you know, because that's rude. So that's the impression I had, was that this is just the way they're raised from infancy into adulthood. And it's a byproduct of the natural progression of you're in a society where even your thoughts can be heard. I mean, imagine how much more orderly we would be if I knew what was going on in everybody's minds right now. I could probably detect people thinking about pornography and how they want to get on the internet really quick after all of this and how messed up that is. Then there's other people that are like going to feel very fascinated with all the questions they have. It would be all over the board. But for them, because we're all on the same sheet of music or same wavelength, thought-wise, everybody's kind of like sharing that space in a very orderly manner so that we're not stepping over each other like that. Does that make sense?
it makes complete sense, and I appreciate you explaining that because it's like it was very clear. Thank you.
Yeah. Can I jump in? Can I ask a question? Am I allowed? Jason.
Hello.
Hello, nice to speak to you again. So on your X, you've been quite cryptic the last couple of weeks. You might not have seen it that way. But you've been speaking about demons and maybe taking over your body to get them out of whatever trouble they're in and using us, the ones that are weak-minded and stuff like that. Is this anything to do with maybe what Matthew Brown's been speaking about and stuff like that?
Yes, I know Matthew. I know Dylan. I know Nusatelli or Jeff. All those guys. We've talked at length, and we have had very spiritual discussions. And I will tell you that, at least in my opinion, you can't get away from that, because there's a side to the NHI presence that's very benevolent that people will talk about, that's very kind, you know, they mean well. But then there are others that are quite evil. And when I was in the presence of some of the evil-minded ones, just like I had that aura of civility, there are ones that give off this very disgusting, I want to kill you, evil kind of mind aura about them. And that's what I'm referring to. And because of my faith in Christianity, I assign the terms, you know, angels and demons to that, because that's kind of what I've experienced in my life, as well as in the program, that, yeah, there's a very evil and dark side to this. They're the ones that have tried to manipulate us from, you know, many thousands of years ago, I suppose, until today. And they probably are still attempting to do so. But then you have all the really good ones that are, I guess, what people would call angelic, that are on our side, and they're trying to keep all of that negativity out of the way so that we can continue to grow as a people, because we're not quite mature enough yet for, I guess, an entrance into maybe a galactic community and things like that right now. As a matter of fact, a lot of the other eyewitnesses that have had cases where they've discussed things with other NHI, the NHI are pretty much telling them, no, you guys stay on your planet. You're not ready for any of this. We're not ready for you, is what we're being told. You guys need to figure out what the heck you guys, where your path is right now, is really what they've been telling everybody, is that humankind is not ready for us, and a big reveal, in other words. And I agree. I tend to agree.
Do you think these people that have been going missing over the decades as well, it's connected to some of these evil beings?
Oh yeah, definitely. Some of the ones that are horror show type abductions, yeah, definitely. They're probably encountering the ones that I would call demonic. Yes, the ones that have ill intent. The reason they're here is to either take our resources, to mess with us in whichever manner they find pleasing to themselves, to meet their own goals. But usually the evil-minded ones are doing it for selfish reasons, to either take something from us or manipulate something that's to their advantage.
So how can we know if we've got an attachment? Say we're going through something in life and we just think we're depressed, or we have these weird thoughts, and it could be an attachment to something that's making us like this. Is there anything we can do to try and figure this out?
Yeah, I would say that, because when I touched on I've touched on both sides, I would say the thing that keeps the evil ones away from me is I know myself, and I know what my purpose is. On top of that, I have a very solid set of core values inside of myself. In other words, if I know I want to be a kind husband to my wife or to other people, I want to be a kind friend or somebody that's willing to do that, I need to have the core values and hold those dear all the time. And then it will become all the more clear that if one of these evil-minded ones telepathically wants me to be angry with somebody for some irrational reason, I know that that's not in my character, because I've decided myself to be a peaceful, friendly person. Now, that's not to say that there's times when I have to be violent to save somebody's life or to defend myself. You're talking about two different things here. I'm not allowing myself, on the one hand, to succumb to anybody else's way of thinking about things. In other words, I will not ascribe to somebody who wants to do violence to one political party or the other, because that's not who I am. Now, let's say, for example, if the NHI are doing that actively now, is to create political unrest by causing people to be angry with each other to the point of irrationality, which we do see quite a lot. Telepathically, they may see that there's a lot of weak-minded people out there that they can make angry and to do violent acts. That may be one of the simplest things that you can do, is just realize who you are, and that's not going to be you. So that's how you can protect yourself, is just, you got to know who you are, what you stand for, and above all else, hopefully whatever you're standing for is noble. I know people that don't stand on noble values. I've met people in special forces that.
So are you saying that if you are of strong moral standards or like you watch yourself, then you're less likely to be abducted by the bad ones?
Correct.
So is it because there's something that how are they playing on those morals to abduct ones? So the people that are being abducted are of less values or standards, right? Like we're saying they're lower tier. So is it that they notice that, or how does that happen? Like, how does that protect? Because why can't they just take you if they wanted to, whether it's your fault or not?
I would first of all point out that abductions are not just always evil. They're not predominantly evil even. Most of them are very benevolent and or neutral. And because there is a real scientific need for the NHI to understand us, because some of them may be looking to colonize our planet, and they need our DNA to help adapt their own bodies to this environment and live here peacefully amongst us. But then there are the ones also that are abducted that are doing it for a completely different reason. In other words, they want to not have a single human on this planet, because that's something that some of the other abductees have said is that some of these beings have literally eliminated all other life on their planet because they're just that dominant. And as you know, that some of the pantheon of Egyptian gods were like that. You know, you have a lot of different gods that were mentioned that they were the gods of destruction. And then you have the ones of creation and of all these other different things that they've done in all these different cultures on our planet. And I believe that those are NHI that appeared. And yes, some of them were benevolent, and they did teach us mathematics and our culture, how to have our first set of laws. And then there were other parts of them, though, that were very evil. They drank our blood even. That's, you know, and that's something even what some humans like to do. I mean, to me, that's a truly evil thing to want to drink somebody's blood. Yet you have people that fantasize that, oh, I love the idea of Dracula, therefore I'm going to LARP and I'm going to get myself a blood doll and I'm going to start sucking their blood. To me, that's absolutely abhorrent. And some of these NHI are very much the same way. They have reprobates in their own societies that they deal with all the time. So these are some of the realities that I've held back on because people try to lump everything into one cart. But I'd say, first of all, so you have to take abductions as being kind of like for different reasons, first of all. And then those are sometimes tied to the NHI's from one species to the other. So they're not all evil and they're not all good. And that's how I would answer your question.
Sorry, Jason, I just have a real quick one, and I'm going to let you be then, lads. My presence is probably annoying someone. But look at Jason, I have a quick one about, he's probably already discussed it before I logged on, I'm not sure, but Three-Eye Atlas, do you know anything about that and why all the sites went dark as it was getting its pass?
I've been trying to ascertain for myself right now. I'm still thinking it's a natural object, but it's a very, very weird object.
Yeah, very.
It is the weirdest object we have seen yet. Now, I know Avi Loeb and some of the other scientific friends I have are all very involved in looking at the sensor data that we currently have. I believe Avi has finally said, yeah, it's natural. It's just really weird, but it's natural.
Okay, right.
So I'm going with what he says because I'm not an instrumentation guy. He is.
I'm kind of hanging on his word at the moment myself, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going with what Avi says.
Right, cool. Listen, asked and answered. All the best. I'm going to jump down and let someone else have a pop. Shivy, I'll talk to you later. Lads, nice seeing some of you there, all right? Take it easy.
See you later, mate. Hi, Jason. I'm just going to jump in. Thank you so much for being here with us tonight, mate. It's good to see you up here again. And in relation to the other abductions that we're just talking about, the differences between, recently I've been approached and I've noticed that a lot of young children are having some profound experiences, whether that's actual visitations to premonitions to even having knowledge from something beyond what they can even comprehend. Is there anything that you know through the grapevine why young children between like the age of 2 to 9 are being approached in such a way potentially? Or I don't know, because a lot of people have come into me for answers and I don't have them, and I'm trying to build the image.
I can speak to my own childhood and what it meant to me to have had those experiences early on. Like I said, they were very protective, but they seemed to know my future. They also seemed to know my future and how to protect me at certain times. So it was as if they had some kind of a looking glass to where they could see my life and understand when they needed to kind of intervene or be there. That's the second aspect of it. The third aspect of it is the outcome as to what exactly did they do for me. And I can tell you that one of the things that I've always found very mysterious is the love I had for my dad. He was very violently alcoholic all throughout my life. He did not get clean until 10 years after I joined the Air Force. And then he became all the man and father he should be. But for all the life of me, I cannot, if you were to ask me if there was a purpose in my life, it's that I have a great capacity that I cannot explain where it comes from. For my dad, I was the only child that he turned to, but when he finally got clean and he brought me into that Alcohol Anonymous meeting, and he truly said he was putting down the bottle for the last time, I knew he meant it. And then on top of that, he said one of the few reasons he had for fighting to get out of it is because of the love I had for him, that I'm the only one that was there. So perhaps, just for example, then I don't like to toot my horn or say I'm some kind of great guy, but maybe they saw that there is a propensity for people that they see that we don't, because perhaps that one simple act of kindness from my father did a number of things that will echo out through, my children, my friendships, some of the people that are listening to this tonight, and maybe many years from now, somebody else will have something similar to say about it. And we just don't know what we don't know about that, because we don't see that spiritual kind of explosion that happens. And that's why I find, and that's why I always, when people ask me, well, what's your purpose in life? I'd say, well, it's because I very much value everything that comes out of my mouth. I know that what I can say can literally destroy another person for the rest of their life, or I can edify them even when they're down and out. And it may change their life for the better. So I choose to make my words count and make, sure that I use them for the better. Not that I can reach everybody, but I think that's something everybody has to deal with, is that, how do you handle the stresses and the things that irritate you in life? Because I've found that the more that I'm kind to people, the more that multiplies. And that's what I choose to do. So I'd say that was something I think that I feel that the NHI did with me in early childhood, is maybe there was an attachment spiritually there, that they maybe saw that I did have a deep love, but they used that to, through the years, and protected me, because they knew that this was what I was here for, to save my dad, kind of thing. Maybe that's one of the things that they did. So I don't know if that adequately answers it for everybody, because it's not like, I got this and all of a sudden I turned into Einstein. I knew how to do algebra all of a sudden. Matter of fact, I suck at math. So it wasn't one of those things where, you get all this stuff like you see in the movies where somebody dons a strange helmet while they're being abducted, and all of a sudden they know everything all at once. That's not what happened to me. It was more down to earth, like there's something much more deeper about us that the NHI recognize than we actually recognize. And I think that's what it really boils down to for me.
Yeah, thank you so much for answering that, man. And all the healing power and love to you, man. Thank you for sharing that. I've just got one more thing I want to ask you, and then I'll hop down. You've referenced legacy programs and deep secrecy. Were there ever any internal conflicts you witnessed within the programs, factions arguing over how to treat or study these intelligences, and did you ever see any internal sabotage or infighting?
Yes, they did have security problems with people that had conflicts with the leadership and what they wanted to have done. I will tell you that the program is built on trying to discover new technologies. Therefore, I would even venture to say that some of them have an addiction for it. And honestly, if you want to believe all the horror stories, they've actually been so addicted to getting more technology that they've actually harmed other people and or murdered them. That's how some of them think. So yes, there is some internal strife, because not everybody thinks that way inside the program. Matter of fact, most of the people I met were very just good people, very smart, very intelligent. They felt as though they were doing something patriotic. Yet here I was on mission, listening to all the other conversations that they weren't privy to. And I was hearing the other side, in that there is a darkness also within the program, where there is deception, there's lies, there's technology at all costs, even up to and including murder, that to get that technology, and even treating NHI the same way and murdering them if they got in their way. That is how bad some of these people are. That is how truly evil parts of this program are. So yes, there is all those sorts of different things, but the one thing where most of these people were just working and didn't even realize the dark side was there because of all the stovepiping. In other words, they didn't even know what the guy down the hallway was doing with all this stuff. And they would pass somebody that had murdered somebody that day and they wouldn't even know it because they just weren't allowed to talk to each other. That's why it still exists in there. So these leaders and people that get into these little dark offices that make these horrible decisions to kill somebody, that's how they survive. Is nobody knows who they are, nobody knows what they did, and it's just hush hush. Nobody knows.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, mate. Well, Jason, I'll catch you in a bit. Thank you all for having me up here, guys, and I'll drop down for someone else. Big love, man. Look after yourself.
Let me ask a question, please.
Go on.
Jason, you've said about the projects. Obviously, they're black projects. Obviously, some of them are secret. But do you know much about Project Fracture? And have you ever heard through the circles of something called Project Fail?
No, I haven't heard that one. As I would say before, it's quite possible it exists, but I don't know everything.
Fracture would be, they've been using technology against us from 1919. That was when the first MK Ultra sort of stuff was done.
Oh, yeah. Well, it would make sense. They would have a code name for that, yeah. It's quite possible. I know that they had a lot of things going on before the Roswell incident.
Yeah, they fractured our souls, echo siphons, that's what the technology is actually doing to us.
Right, and I think it goes back even further than that, even. Yeah. I think the only thing that's really been unique about this century and last century is that we actually have a program that's officially involved in it. I think before, if you go back 1,000 or 2,000 years, you still get the involvement, but it's as if the humans back then, they looked at it like it was everyday kind of thing, an occurrence. It's like, we know the angels are here, we know the demons are here. Oh, look, another light in the sky.
Some of us humans are the demons, you know that. Do you know what I mean? But no, how would a family member of a victim of what the bad people have done go about retrieving files, Jason? Because I'm in the middle of doing it. My dad was a Project Fracture victim, and I'm not trying to get the files in the middle.
Yeah, it's all of that involved. But yeah, I don't know exactly what was going on at the beginning of the century. I could tell you parts of things that were around the Holloman Air Force Base. I know some information about that, and then on forward, I can't really tell you much about what happened before.
Belize, I'm on about some stuff that they were doing in Belize in 1990.
Yeah, that was before my time.
My dad didn't come home because of that project, so I'm trying to retrieve the files.
Yeah. Well, another thing I can tell you, at least about the project names, is they do change.
Yes.
And sometimes they change very suddenly because somebody has spilled the beans. Other times it's just a periodic thing, like every so many years they do that. They change all of the different code names just so that people can't keep up.
Can I just say one last thing? Thank you for your service as well. But you now feel like you're a soldier to the right people and not the wrong, that you have told the truth. Yeah, because I commend your service. Thank you.
Yeah, I try my best to do what I can to be helpful. So thank you for saying so. It means a lot to me.
Thank you.
So the Nordics are terrestrial. They're here. They're not.
Yeah, some of them are here. I know that they followed me around in my childhood, yes.
And they're the ones in control of the advanced technologies.
Yeah, I would say that, to my knowledge, the Nordics did not want to be involved in the program at all. The Nordics were kind of on the outside. They did have a little bit of interaction, but they were not there like the Tall Whites. The Tall Whites were very much embedded in the program along with the Greys. And for some reason, the Nordics didn't want any of that. They wanted their hands clean. of any dirty business that any of the other beings were interested in. That's the
And am I
feeling.
right in assuming that it's the NHI that wants to remain secret and not the other way around?
Some of them, yes. I believe that some of their goals are not. If we knew about them, yeah, I think we'd be kind of upset. Yeah. I mean, think about this: the abductions. If what we've heard about the abductions and how many the Greys were allowed to take every night, you know, it's supposed to be in the hundreds of thousands, and then they broke their treaty. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. We have a treaty with them. Nobody told me that this was the thing. You know, I'm like, who on earth are these people in the program think they are to make those decisions for all mankind? You know, it's like, what on earth have they been doing?
So the tall whites are in charge of the technology, and they are terrestrial, working with the deep space program.
Yeah, and then there's other NHI that are they're like, no, we don't want any of that. We're here to protect the human race, and what you're doing is wrong. I think that's kind of what some of the other NHI would tell us, is that, yeah, that program, it needs to go. I mean, whoever's involved, the NHI that are involved with those humans in that program, to them, they might look at that as they're committing crimes. They might be just,
question.
Like
I have a question, Jason.
Sure.
I apologize. I've seen your face, and I've seen, I don't know, I apologize, I'm not super familiar. You're talking about this program, but what is this, like, you put out a lot of info, and I want to ask, how did you get on the program? And I guess, like you said you had face-to-face interaction. Like, I'm a contactee as like I was contacted while on active duty, but I wasn't part of any of like those cool projects, man. I wasn't part of any of that cool stuff like you guys were. I'm just a regular old Joe. Like, I'm just an old medic. You know what I mean? And like, what's that?
I will tell you that my encounter in the desert, that was a face-to-face where the guy, you know, this entity was 3 feet from me and talking to me like I'm talking to a friend. That happened after I got out of the program. So just to give you the background as to what was going on in my life before I got in the program, and then when they put me in the program, and I can only give you my ideas on why they might have picked me. But my first duty station, I was down in Little Rock, Arkansas. I was a sheet metal guy. I cross-trained out and went to Germany, and then I went to Nellis Air Force Base where they picked me up into the program.
When were you in Germany?
I was in Sembach, Germany, yeah, for 2 years.
What years? Can I ask? Am I allowed to ask when?
It was like 1989 time frame, 1990. Okay. So right around then. And then, anyway, so some of the things that I could do, people did notice about me. Like, you know, there's, you know, in the military, you're probably familiar with this. They have the volume review exercises that you have to study to get, you know, go from journeyman to craftsman and all that good stuff, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you start off as an apprentice in whatever skill set you're going in. Well, you know that some of those volume review tests have over 300 questions. And I could go through a 300 question test, hand it to my roommate in the dormitory and say, okay, quiz me on these. He would speak part of the question. I'd finish the question for him and then tell him what the right answer was. And I don't know why I can do it for that, and yet I can barely remember all the birthdays of all my children. But I had these really weird skill sets with my memory, you know, and the same thing with analysis. I put things together very quickly. I'm one of those people, like, I go through life, I don't have a photographic memory for everything, but as soon as I see something that relates to something else, my mind automatically makes the connection.
Yes.
So they noticed those things as an intelligence analyst. And I think when I went to Nellis Air Force Base, one of them noticed me doing that because I was studying for my next test. And they saw me literally memorize an entire 300 question booklet, and they're like, "We need that guy on the team." I think is what they were doing, and then
Talent scouting. Wow.
right, and so that may be one of the reasons why they picked me. The other reason they might have picked me was that I didn't know it at the time, but I got to be really good friends with one of the guys that was already in the program. I just didn't know that that's what he was doing, because he was working like I ended up working. He did his day job, and it looked normal. He looked like a normal guy, but on a weekend, he would disappear for 2 weeks and come back all of a sudden. Nobody, and then you'd have the officer in charge for the black program he was in saying, "Yeah, just leave him alone. He's working for me. He'll be back, in 2 weeks." And he would, and so there was somebody there to protect anybody that was in the program. So there were 3 other guys in the program. I got along great with them, and I think that was the other thing, is just that they all liked me. We went out shooting at the gun range. That was another thing they really were interested in for some reason, is how well I could shoot. And I remember grabbing one of my friend's guns, because I didn't own a gun at that point. He let me use his. And I shot from about 50 yards away, a silhouette target right between the eyes. And he was very amazed at that. So they knew I was a good, and that's important when you're in the program. See, all these things I didn't know before I got in the program. And then when I got in the program and they read me in, one of the first things that my friends automatically wanted me to do was to join them on the retrieval teams. And I asked a little bit about that, and I eventually was like, "That sounds gross. No, there's no level of protective gear that you can give me that's going to make me touch a body I have no idea where it's been."
You are the lucky, just so you know, I think you are very lucky. And I understand that you probably comes with a lot of trauma, and it's scary but I'm grateful that you are here right now talking to us about this right now. And I'm filled with gratitude.
Thank you.
So thank you.
Well, you're welcome. That's what I'm here for. I've wanted to, if nothing else, I want to tell everybody that this is a very important thing for every man, woman, and child on the face of the earth, is to know we're not alone. And that there are beings out there that are protecting us, that love us, that want us to find our path forward. And they're also fighting for us against these other NHI that are wishing us harm in many, many ways. So I want everybody to be aware that everything you're hearing about this unseen battle for this planet, it's very real, but we have a lot of really great friends out there that are taking care of us for the things that we can't do technologically for ourselves to defend ourselves.
Hey, Jason, are there any resources that are valuable to them on our planet?
Yes. Just look at our own solar system, for example. Mars, a desert planet. Venus, very hostile, acidic atmosphere. Jupiter, gas that would kill us in an instant. A lot of they're saying there's a lot more planets out there, but not everyone is like a little jewel like ours is. That's just the right amount of this and the right amount of that. Huge diversity of plant life, huge diversity of animal life. All of these things are very precious. It's like looking at a beautiful 100-carat diamond for them, I would think, in a lot of ways. I think, going back to my faith, that the way God intended for us to live here before, everything got broken by, Satan convincing us to begin lying and all the other things that happened after that, that we were just meant to walk in this garden and to be the caretakers of this world. And I think that is ultimately what we were meant to do here. And that's something that is still part of us. And that's why you find people that have this empathy for animals and caretaking in gardens, people with green thumbs, and even people that are great with other people. There are people that heal people spiritually. And then when you get into the even more higher forms of healing, there's people that are like the prophets that are written in the Bible that could actually lay on their hands and cure diseases and all sorts of stuff. Maybe that's more what we're supposed to have been. But here we are, grabbing our cell phones every day, forgetting even our kids exist, just so we can play another game. And we're forgetting about all this, what we could be. And it's just, we're preoccupied, let me put it that way. And we've lost our way for technology. I think that's the one thing that I could say that robs me is if I don't put my cell phone down when I go see my grandkids, I don't spend as much quality time with them as I should. And I think everybody could probably say that their cell phones and other things take a lot of time away. So the more I'm away from technology and the more I'm talking face to face with you guys, I get a bigger charge out of talking to you all than I ever will having a cell phone.
I've got a few questions. My first one, I saw a clip on X the other day, and you were saying, hey, NHI are coming back for the technology and bodies. And what authority do you have that on? And do you know anything that we don't about them coming back? Because I think Dr. Greer said this as well, that they're coming back to prove.
So you mean like our bodies being containers for a life force thing? Is that what you mean?
So the craft that we've down on the bodies we recovered, they're coming back to take it. Is that true?
Yes, that was on mission. Yes, and that's something if there's anybody out there in the program that's listening to me right now, I and the other 3 analysts that I was on mission with, we intercepted information that stated that the NHI that had suffered imprisonment of their civilians or their own people inside the program want their stuff back, and if we don't give it back, they have already stated that they will kill anybody that gets in the way when they come back for it. And they stated at that point in time that it would be in or around the 2025 to 2035 time frame. So it was not an exact date. If anybody tells you it's an exact date or exact year, they're full of crap. That's not what I heard. What I heard inside the program, it's a window of time, and even the NHI are hoping that these people in the program give back all this forbidden technology and release all the prisoners back to their own people, just like the Russians would expect if they had a down craft in America. They would expect us to treat that with respect, and that's not what happened in Roswell. We literally dissected their people, and we tore apart their craft, and we refused to give it back. So they were forced to take it up with their own government once they realized that it was a get nowhere plan to talk to the people in the program. So anybody out there that's still in the program, that's what was said. Now, you take it or leave it, you can believe me or not believe me, but I'm telling you right now, it sounded like there are people's lives in danger inside the program right now. If you're still playing with this stuff, you're putting your own life at risk, and I'm just giving you a warning, and I'm telling you, think before you act. Okay?
That's the
way I am.
So a lot of people that have come forward, they've always said they don't know what these things are. Either they're interdimensional, they come from here. You believe that the extraterrestrials or other star systems, have we been to the planet? How do we know that they're from other planets? Obviously, we've captured live beings, they've been interviewed. Is that how you found information?
I have nothing, I have no proof that we have been to another planet, no. I have heard names of what sounded like naval ships, which could very have been, well have been spaceships, like the Eisenhower, and other things like that. They were actually mentioned when I was on mission as well. So there are some types of ships, I think.
Yeah.
However, whether they're just all mankind made, I don't know. So that would be a mystery to me. I wish I had more on that, but I would tell you that the NHI do abduct some people from within the program and use them for dirty work.
I think my question was, how do you know they're from other star systems? That was my initial question. Because everyone else who's come forward, they don't know what they are. you've had a few people saying they've come from here, the reticulite over here, but do you have any indication of or solid evidence they're coming from other star systems?
Oh, yes, I firmly believe that because the individual I met in the desert, somehow during that encounter, I was left with a star map in my head that was very similar to what Barney Hill and his wife encountered. Because I know nothing about constellations, and when David Grush interviewed me, he made me produce the map, and when he looked at it, he's like, "Do you know what this is?" And I'm like, "No." And he said, "This is the constellation Leo." And he said, "They just recently found that there are exoplanets that could support life out there." And I was like, "Yeah, I agree." Because that's the feeling I got from the star map, is that this is like, when you and I talk about, well, where are you from? Oh, I'm from the United Kingdom. I live over here in Cambridgeshire, and I live in Downham Market. So, and for him, it was like, well, I'm from this star system. And that's why he imparted that with me. That's the feeling whenever I think about that star map, it feels like this is what he was telling me, is that this is where I'm from. There was that residue information along with that star map that he had told me this is where I'm from. So yes, I believe that he lives in a colonized planet over there in the Leo system. So yes, I believe there are other planets. I also believe that there are higher dimensions and lower dimensions.
Yeah.
And that is another form of reality. And that there are beings that are able to live in there. And they appear sometimes, maybe some of these UAP that we see, or people actually videotape, that look like they're morphing and they look like they change of shape. They may actually be an interdimensional craft, because to us, our senses can only accept one particular view of it. And then whenever it moves, all of a sudden we can see the other facet. But because our minds are only set on, three-dimensional space, we tend to see it as it's changing shape, but it's really not. It's actually, that's what it is. It has multiple dimensions that we just don't comprehend on a daily basis.
Thank you. I'll pass on to Conti and then get on to the job.
Jason, so that's a perfect segue. So first of all, it's so nice to see you again. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, so you have a lot of people that are in the chat that are actually videoing as well, documenting what we see in the sky. Is there anything as far as when it comes to chromaticity or colorimetry that we can help identify to the non-seers that these are actually, in fact, some sort of NHI? Does that make sense?
So if there's some sort of characteristic that will help you determine if it's this or that.
Well, specific to chromaticity. So we all know that FAA regulations require certain things. But I think a lot of folks don't understand that it's even a specific shade of red that's required by the FAA and the ICAO. So have you heard of anyone on the team identifying specific chromaticity or when it comes to sound, specific frequencies, so that we can say, hey, neighbor, this is not just, a drone or a pretty thing floating through the sky?
I will tell you that yes, the 1.3 to 1.6 gigahertz range is one characteristic I know that is very interesting. You're not going to just hear that from me. You're going to hear that from a lot of other people. There is a lot of other things like radiation from people that have actually been very close to these craft. That's also very telling. It's as if it varies from the benign sunburn all the way up to people that have had radiation poisoning. So that's another aspect of this. Spectrum analysis as well is another way, especially with the orbs that we're seeing, these types of light, whether they're, blue light is not, it doesn't tell you the same thing as a red light or orange light. or a white light, each one of these can give hints as to what type of propulsion and or plasma is being produced. And that in turn gives you scientific reason to believe, oh, this may be the propulsion type, or this may be the energy type, and give you some clues. These are all things that we need to really start thinking about, because we, as the people of the world, we're full of scientists of our own. We don't need our government to study this stuff. We have people that are in the civilian sector that are just as capable as anyone the government hires. Okay? So I would say
Agreed.
while we're waiting for the governments to either come clean and or discover for themselves and finally realize that this is real, which they already have said, they're just wondering about, well, it's real, but now what is it? Well, we can help them figure out what it is. And I don't know why we're not doing our own field experiments on a large scale. I don't know why we're not organizing on a large scale. I mean, literally all around the world, there are people that can do this stuff. I mean, some of us aren't scientists, but we'd be great for field work and collecting evidence. We're also, a lot of times, whenever these retrievals take place, usually your next door neighbor are the first ones on the scene, and then the men in black show up. So we can actually grab some of this stuff for ourselves before anybody has a chance to react. I don't know why we don't realize these simple facts about retrievals. It's like, what are you going to do? Sit there and wait for the government to show up? Or what are they going to do? They're going to snatch everything, you idiot. Go grab something and run away, you know? Go run down the street to the police department for crying out loud. That's what I'd say. So all those kind of things enter my mind when you ask a question like that. So yes, there is science that can be had. Spectrum analysis, 1.3 to 1.6 gigahertz. That's a very unique area of study you could latch into. And that's my response.
And I don't want to, I could talk to you all day. So let me give it on to someone else. But thank you, Jason. You always make me feel so much better. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Tell my wife that.
Thank you, Shiv.
Drop down too. I missed it from the preachers, but thanks everybody. Thanks Jason. Thanks Shiv. Good seeing everybody.
Hey Jason.
Hey.
I have a quick question. First of all, my name's Jason as well, and thank you for your service.
Great name. I love your name.
So, agreed. Solid. So, in the time that you've kind of come out publicly, is there anything in hindsight, looking back, that you would focus more in on if you were still in the program and still had certain clearances and access to certain information, and in the time that you've been out publicly and have spoken to other people and done interviews and gathered more data and information, is there anything that you look back and kind of go, oh man, I wish if I still could, I would do this, or look into this more, or learn more about this?
Yeah, I think I would have had tertiary meetings at the outbrief, because what we were required to do would be to outbrief the leadership at each of the installations we would conduct our missions at. I think in hindsight, I would have said, okay, sir, ma'am, now that we're done talking to all of your minions here that are working for you, can we please go back and have a private conversation about some of the stuff that I have concerns about? And I would have a really in-depth conversation with them at that level, rather than just do the vanilla outbrief with them. Because I think that was a missing piece. I think our team discovered a lot of different things because, like I said, the program is very stovepipe, but my job was to listen to all of it. In other words, I was hearing what the leadership said. I was hearing what the engineer was saying. I was hearing what the scientists were saying. I was hearing what the retrieval teams were talking about. I was hearing about the stuff that from the people who were interviewing the Ebens. All those things were things that I got exposure to, whereas a scientist would have only been handed, here you go, figure out how this works, and they would know nothing about the other stuff. So that's the other aspect, is that I wish I could have sat down with the leadership and just, said, sir or ma'am, these are the other concerns that you should be thinking of, because they maybe have only had a sliver of their program to think about and not realize that it relates to all these other things. So yeah, that's
Right.
what I would have said. Yeah, in hindsight, I wish I would have done that.
Interesting. Thank you. That's very interesting.
Yeah.
Hello. Can I just jump in? It's Michelle. I'm calling from Australia. Good morning.
Hello.
Hey.
From the outback.
My question is around dreams and whether you've had any sort of frequency of people describing to you dreams where they've had contact experiences. I think for me, mine is around Men in Black. And before the movie, I didn't have a name for them. I used to call them bunyeps. But they would steal light. It was like a loosh thing. And for me, in later years, that helped me power up in a dream realm context where they became a lot more precognitive. And in the latest one that I had that was probably the most powerful one, that was like a trance dream with lucidity, it was around being told there's a planet coming. And it had such gravity and weight that I woke up, I just had to, write it all down. And so my question is, are you having any other people talk about this sort of experience and whether they have a message?
All the time. I would tell you that because now I'm a public figure, people do come to me with things about dreams as well as their experiences. And I will tell you that there's been a spike in many people having strange, very vivid dreams. Some of them calling them nightmares, other ones calling them like God talked to them experience. Other people, many of them talking about what they feel was astral travel. And I've actually have my own story to tell with that is I have a friend who's a scientist who lives in Europe, and his wife is a spiritual person, a medium, so to speak. And he just called me out of the blue one time, and he said, my wife made me call you, Jay. And I'm like, okay, well, what is it? Am I in trouble? And he's like, no. She wants me to ask you what you dreamt about last night. And I'm like, dreamt about? He's like, yeah, tell me what you dreamt. My wife wants to know what you dreamed about last night because she's spiritual, and she wants me to ask you. And I said, okay, well, I was on the moon, and we ended up in a cavern with all these other peoples from other planets, and everybody was arguing about how to intervene with, humanity, and whether they were going to intervene or keep their hands off and let us work ourselves out. And there was all this arguing, and he said, yes, that's exactly, because I could hear his wife talking in I think it was Belgian or something, in the background. And she's like, yeah, tell him this, and this about it. And she told me the rest of the dream. And I was like taken aback by that, because I was like, how on earth can somebody actually have seen everything I saw in my dream? And she's on the other side of the ocean. And here it is. She's, telling her husband to call me about all of this. So she actually told me, I looked at it as just a weird dream, But for her, she was like, no, you were astral traveling with me, is what she told me through her husband. So I was very taken aback by that. And I have to take a second look at that and think, our dreams really just that. Maybe some of these are very real. Maybe they are some form of, astral travel. Because I can't explain how his wife would know the rest of the dream. Honestly, that to me was absolutely something I can't explain. So yeah, I totally believe that we're all having dreams now. There's been a spike, at least people telling me about it, their own dreams and what is going on. There seems to be more activity in that arena, and that there's some sort of a big message for mankind coming, that there's a new awakening coming. That's really what it boils down to. A lot of them are saying there's an awakening of some kind that's taking place.
Awakening, whatever it's an event or it's a build up into something. But to me, entity that I received
it's not like at 12 o'clock tonight, everybody's all of a sudden going to be on a new frequency and wavelength. No, it's like a long drawn out thing where everything that is all you and all me, this is something that's been worked out with you and me all our lives, and it will extend into our future part of our life as well. So it's like a lifelong thing, but people are waking up to this aspect of life that they didn't before. In other words, it's not just what you can see, touch, and feel. Now it's about something different. That it's kind of like, how do you prove what love is, kind of thing. It's something intangible that people have kind of ignored for the large part. But then now we're seeing also that we're discovering, like when we got all that dump on the CIA files, that they actually been studying this stuff, the spiritual side or the consciousness side of this. That's what I'm talking about. There seems to be some kind of a consciousness awakening that's occurring now, and it's being prompted by outside forces. And also it's an internal growth as well.
It was very much an entity. It was huge. It was enormous in power. I felt void energy from it. But it started as if it was like reptilian sort of scale, like alligator skin, then like morphing like you're having a psychedelic experience, and then code running through it. Yeah. And a dream following that was like electrical grid. So I feel like there's an electrical kind of disturbance that comes along with it as well, if you want to comment towards that.
Yeah, some of the people I talked to described very much what you just said. Yeah, these strange beings that they've never imagined at all in their whole lives, all of a sudden they could describe to me, like you just did, this being that had scales, and they're like, I don't know, I've never seen anything like it, but here it was in my dream, So there just seems to be a lot of that going on right now. Is that, people are being, they're beginning to touch the area now, I think, because I don't think it's always prompted by, other beings out there. I think it's something that's happening inside of us. There's something internal that's happening inside of us. That seems to be what most people are saying, because they also are describing to me that parts of their lives are changing for the better, kind of thing. That they feel like they're waking up somehow to new ways of looking at their lives and their loved ones and things like this. These are all very common stories I'm hearing from them. So it's kind of like a spiritual awakening, really, is what I boil it down to.
Thank you. I'll jump out and make space for other people. Thank you.
Sure.
Hi, Jason. Thanks ever so much for coming again. It's been really good listening to you so far. I want to sort of ask you a few sort of questions in regard to disclosure at the moment, because disclosure has been happening for around about 12 months now, and there are no stereotypical flying saucers within disclosure yet. We interviewed Michael Schrapp a couple of weeks back, and he's reviewed over 50,000 cases of crash retrievals. He was showing artist rendition images, and these are all physical crafts. So my first question really is, where are all the stereotypical flying saucers in disclosure?
Well, I can tell you we've captured quite a few different types. There's a multitude of different propulsion types. They're shaped very differently. There are some common ones, though, that are more common than others, like orb shape, saucer shape, V-wing and or triangular shape. And then you get all these other ones that are all kinds of weird. They just don't fit anything. So all I can say when it comes to all these different types of UAP, that yes, we do have some in our possession, and it's not just here. I think Russia and China also have their own. I think anywhere there's landmass, like even in Australia, I believe that as our Five Eye partners, that Australia, the UK, we all are working together on these things. The other thing I'll say is that in my belief, that the pattern of life is more evident than accidental life in our universe. I don't see, in other words, I don't see a lot of mistaken star formation out there. I see patterned star formation. Likewise, I see the same thing here in the pattern of life here, is that there's a pattern. I don't see a lot of mistakes in the fossil records. It looks like things grew up in a pattern, that this is what they were supposed to be. If that is true, then if that is true, then our universe has got to be chock full of life. In other words, trillions of other species probably exist out there. So that being said, the number of vehicles and shapes and sizes and propulsion, and some of them being plasmas, some of them not, I think that's kind of more the reality than anything else. So I would add to the fact that, yeah, we do have some in our inventory, but I think that's just scratching the surface of what's actually out there.
Can I ask a quick question? Can I add to Dan?
I've got literally 2 more questions, and then I'm done. Okay, so disclosure at the minute feels very controlled and leading down one narrative. You only have to go back to 2023 when Eric Tabor came out and was talking about the pearlescent egg-shaped craft and the way he explained how it had no propulsion system or jet engines, and that this information was going to be released in 12 months' time. 13 months down the line, Jake Barber comes out with the crash retrieval footage and describes the pearlescent egg-shaped craft word for word exactly the same as Eric Tabor. You also have Mike Herrera, who, I mean, no disrespect when I say this, was a Marine, just a Marine. He wasn't part of the program, yet he is now a reverse engineering expert.
Mm-hmm.
And you've also got Eric Davis, and this is where it seems like 25 years ago, because you've got Eric Davis saying exactly the same thing as Bob Dean. So my question is, really, is this actually controlled disclosure, and is it actually scripted? Because it feels very much like it is.
It is. It is. I was even kind of, when I went and gave my testimony, I could tell there were things that they wanted to hear and things they weren't ready to hear. Even when I went to testify to Arrow, same thing. Sean Kirkpatrick didn't want to hear aspects of my testimony. I can tell you some of the UAP figureheads that have been there for a number of years. They've all had to shake hands, and what started off as being a person that was very transparent at the start, now they're very guarded as to what they say, because they've talked to X amount of congressmen and people that they've been told, don't talk about this. And after a while, they become less effective, or at least less transparent. And so, yes, the narrative is being manipulated in that way, because the public, people have their ideas of what they think the public wants. Let me put it that way. And you have a lot of people that get really pissed off when you don't listen to them. And because of who they are and the kind of clout that they can throw at you, you get scared and you don't say something. Now, I don't, unlike all the other figureheads, as everybody knows, I don't let anybody tell me what to say or do. I'm kind of like one of those people. That's why people stand off. And the people that are involved in the disclosure, the official disclosure, sometimes I scare them because they know that I'm not going to allow them to control me, and they don't like that. And sometimes that's how it goes. And so, yes, even though we have people that are advocates for disclosure, sometimes even they get caught up in controlling a narrative. Yes. But then there are people that are actively in the deception program offices within the Department of Defense here in the United States. They are actively deceiving and lying and trying to change the narrative. So yes, all of those things are happening. We have a huge problem trying to get a direct answer out of government, in other words. And until they're ready to be transparent about this, it's going to remain that way. So I don't mean to be, I don't mean to put rainy clouds over everybody's head, but if you're looking for the governments to come clean on this, I don't see it happening for a while, unless, Paulina Luna's team actually declassifies some of this stuff for us. I don't see it happening. for a
So
while.
don't trust the data. All right. One, I need to get back to editing, so I really want to ask you one question.
Right, last question, Jason, because
No,
this is
no.
not
Let me land one thing.
Mate, I do apologise. It's my last question. All right? I've been waiting an hour, so please
Yeah,
bear with
no.
me.
But I'm pretty busy.
Yeah.
Right. So everything at the moment is all focused on angels and demons. Now, I myself, like you and like many people, have gone through a spiritual awakening, and we all know that angels and demons are actually just another form of life. So my question, and you've got Anna Luna Polina. She's just done a recent podcast with Danny Jones, uses a lot of spiritual terminology, but then focuses back on religion. You've got a lot of things focusing on religion at the moment. And my question to you is actually, is this not just a farce and all pointing? Because we all know about Blue being fake alien invasion. There's been whistleblowers coming out at the moment stating that UFOs have been found at archaeological digs. The resin on the boogosphere has now been dated 12,560 years old. It predates everything we know about history.
Correct.
Dr. Carol Rosin in 2001 has explained the last 25 years as part of Project Bluebeam. You just have to go and look back through history and go and see her news conference. So my question is this not just all a farce, and is this not just actually pointing at a fake rapture?
No, it's not fake. When I was on mission, there was an archaeological dig that they were very interested in. I think it was in India, in the Himalayan mountains or something. So this stuff was apparently very old, or at least the site was very old. But they had found something that was very interesting to them. So this stuff goes back thousands of years, honestly, if you were to take that to heart. So it's not fake. I do know of at least one or two different archaeological digs that took place, at least in my time inside the program. And that's just what I heard. So you can take that with a grain of salt or not. But to me, these people would have had no reason to deceive or.
No, I don't mean that they are deceiving with what they're telling us. I'm saying that
definitely.
This is scripted towards a fake Jesus Christ in the sky.
Oh, no. Honestly, the way I look at it is that the Bible actually. People have asked me a number of times, did your faith suffer after you were in the program? I'm like, no, actually, I reread my Bible front to back, and I was like, holy crap, everything I saw kind of jives with what's written here. So no, actually, to me, if you were to ask me personally, I'd be like, no. The Bible, to me, actually is more truthful than all the other ancient scripts that I've read. So that's just my response to you for that. But no, I think that the ancient texts actually tell the story very accurately. They're full of eyewitness accounts as well of lights in the sky and all these other living beings.
Thank you. Aggie, you got a question before you go?
Right. Two quick questions. Have you ever had an encounter with an alien?
Yes.
Did they get the chance to probe you? If so, how did it feel?
No, they didn't probe me. They talked to me. Telepathically communicated with me, but no, they didn't stick anything up my butt, if that's what you're getting after. No. It was just a meeting face to face in the desert. That's all it was. And when I was a child, that was also just one of those things where they were protecting me. But no, they didn't probe me or anything like that. It was just all very...
Yeah, stupid.
I've got a question for Jason regards to technology. That's how he does his content. He goes around asking people in the middle of the street stupid questions and stuff like that.
Yeah. It's technology, Jason.
He wanted to know if I got probed in the butt. Is that what you're saying?
Probably what he wanted to hear, and what he wanted to listen to at night time to get himself off.
My bunghole was very sore still.
I've got a valid question for Jason. We'll go back to the beginning of the live regards to why are they here, what resources do they want. and what are they using them for? What resources do they want? That's my question. Are they after critical minerals? The thing is, what we're seeing is critical minerals in this day and age are used in aerospace technologies.
That's right.
And are we seeing like a reverse technology? So we're kind of like probably, I don't know, thousands of years behind these beings or whatever you want to call them.
Mm-hmm.
So are we seeing why they're here and what are they after? What minerals are they after? Because there are minerals that do present how can I put it, piezoelectricity and other kinds of electricity. So what are they after? What resources are they after on Earth? Why are they here?
This is my professional opinion about it. After what I've experienced, what I have is that some of the materials that they get here on our planet, they can get on other planets. But because there's life here and they have bases here, that's why they take some of the resources from this planet rather than another. So there are some minerals and some materials that we consider very rare, that they find very useful for building their own craft and or types of energy that they use. I will tell you that yes, they are, from what I understood, is they're able to control and or understand plasma and critical, I don't know how to put it, wavelength and vibrational forces on matter can cause plasmas and plasmoids to appear and create huge amounts of energy. They have mastered that, whereas we would probably blow ourselves up in the lab.
What are we saying then? The minerals that we got here, because the minerals can and a lot of minerals are using aerospace technologies. What my question is the fact that do they build their craft out of certain minerals, or do they build their craft out of certain crystals, minerals, blah blah? You know.
I know.
And does it? And because obviously, because of the genetic, the makeup of the minerals and the way it's kind of like probably the physics of the way it's layered and the way the minerals are layered and the glass and the crystals, does it hold plasma better? Does it kind of like contain an energy source better for a how can I put it, an energy source to use in a spacecraft?
Yep. At the nano level, I will tell you this, that even though, you say you look at a piece of layered material that is a layer of calcium that looks like a checkerboard of calcium and tintium.
Or geothite. Geothite's another one. Geothite's quite layered and I don't know. Mate, go on. Sorry, Jason.
Well, no, I'm just going to say that the next layer down might be nothing but copper and look very benign. However, when it's energized with electricity or electromagnetic force, there are things that they conduct inside at the nano level that become huge energy sources. And then say like the layer of calcium also acts as a protective layer when these plasmas appear, by virtue of the fact that they're impregnated alongside these other materials that are rare earth materials. So yes, they are after those. We can only produce very small amounts of those nanotype matrices.
Yeah.
So, but apparently they have mastered the manufacture of some of these. But I will tell you that the inert material is just a conduit for the plasmas and energies that take place inside of it.
Yeah, so basically what you're saying is the fact that the minerals itself hold the plasma, or hold the plasma ball, or the energy, because that's the most efficient way of holding it.
Yep. And I will tell you that even at the atomic level, some of these layers can they can control the polarity, so that instead of spinning this way, they spin this way.
Yeah.
So that, say you have a force of plasma coming off this side.
Yeah.
Then this way, it forces the plasma that way.
You see, so they can alter the flow of energy by altering the atomic spin and polarity. So that's something also that I think is part of the technology that they have.
Okay, right. I'm done with that. Next, somebody else.
Sorry, Jason.
Thank you, Jason.
Jason, can I just ask? I've got two questions for you, actually. The first one, William Cooper spoke about an Aztec crash that the government won't ever let anybody find out more about, and this happened before Roswell. And he said that there was human body parts. You didn't know anything about that particular crash?
No, I've heard of other retrievals that took place in South America, Peru, Argentina, places like that. But no, I don't know of that particular one that you're speaking of.
Okay, and the other question, was I've been studying this area for about 40 years, but nobody really speaks about Dr. Jonathan Reed, who had an encounter with with an alien who he actually whacked that killed his dog. The whole video was on YouTube back in the 90s, and you can see the spaceship, and he also took the alien back to his house. Eventually some people came and took it, but he had a bracelet from the alien, and he went on Mexican TV with Jaime Masu, and he actually disappeared by putting this bracelet on. But I've been to many conferences, and a lot of ufologists don't know about this encounter. And I saw this like 20, 30 years ago. And I think he's one of the most important abductees because he had the proof. He had the spaceship on video, he had the alien, and he still got the bracelet. And I'm just surprised that nobody's actually investigated him properly thoroughly to find out more about his encounter.
I remember he had wrapped them up and everything.
So you mean like he disappeared, like some of the bad guys got to him, or you mean like disappeared?
No. He had the alien at home. He took videos of it because he was a doctor. He was trying to save it because the alien killed his dog, and he whacked the alien over the head with a bark or something. He took it home. He videotaped him, the alien. They tried to kill him, to unlive him at one point. While he was out, they came and raided everything he had, but he had the bracelet, and he might be able to still get the video. He goes on Jaime Masoon's TV in front of a live audience, and he puts the bracelet on. He explains what happens to the bracelet, and he actually disappears in a ball of light, and he says they take him to the craft, the aliens, and then he comes back on live TV. But hardly anybody talks about it, and I think it's so important, his case, because of
he also recorded
what happens. Yeah.
Do you have anything you could share with everybody online right now with that?
I could try and find it on YouTube. I mean, I had it.
Honestly, I don't know about this.
Yeah.
I didn't know about this Reed character.
Yeah, Dr. Jonathan Reed, his name is.
No.
It's real.
Yeah, Dr. Jonathan Reed.
Yeah, I'd like to actually review that. I do that a lot. People tell me a lot of different things, and I usually, ask them to, if they have some information.
Yeah, what I'll do, I'll get the video and I'll pass it on to Shiv, and then he can forward it on to you.
You recorded
fair enough, then. Yeah, if you can find something, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Hey, Jason, nice to meet you. I was wondering if you've had any. Do you have any awareness of what the biological recovery or hazmat protocols are with regards to retrieving biologicals?
Yeah, they mainly use what's kind of standard. If you're around a biological contaminant, that's what they make you wear. That kind of protection.
Hazmat suits and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, nothing special that I knew of. That's why I did not join the retrieval team, because I was like, there's no telling what you guys are picking up. And I don't think there's any protective gear you could give me that I feel comfortable with.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'd say that they were probably woefully... It's kind of like, the guys in the Army, making them handle nuclear and radioactive material and not telling them. That's kind of what they were asking me to do, is what I felt.
Did you were aware of anyone that suffered any personal health effects, from exposure to these entities?
I did not suffer anything in my encounter in the desert. Good. The only thing I have suffered from is being exposed to toxins in the Air Force. And they do that quite a lot, but Yeah, that's the only thing is that, yeah, I've been around some burn pits and things like that where they're burning toxins. So yeah, I've been around that kind of stuff, but no, not from my encounter. I don't think I've suffered at all from that.
Good. That's very good.
Yeah. Quick one. How much time do you have, Jason? Are you okay?
I'm going to be going here in the next few minutes.
All right.
Can I just jump in then quickly? Just one question. We know that these ships are not traveling for millions of light years away and crashing because we're deliberately bringing them down. Can you explain to us how they know when they're coming?
Can you say that again? I was losing you partway through.
We know these ships are not coming from millions of light years away. So my question is, how do the military know that they're coming? Because in Penturk, they were waiting for them.
Yes, that is an aspect that I still ponder today because they have to have some kind of looking glass. If you look at a lot of the Men in Black kind of encounters, and they show up alongside military a lot of times, and it seems like they've already had a heads up as to something's going to happen. And then they're like, other than the people that are there where the craft has crashed, they're the next ones to show up within a few minutes like they knew it was there. So there's some kind of a precursor, they're getting some kind of a heads up. I don't know of any kind of satellites and or other intelligence sensors that are part of any kind of RAs that are common to the intel community that are that quick at identifying the craft. But perhaps they have finely tuned parts of the data for themselves. I've heard tell that a lot of the junk data that's thrown away from the FAA and also from our satellites, that is part of the deception from within the program, because part of that junk data actually contains the precursors to these craft that come into our atmosphere, because I've heard that the craft, when they travel in space, will use one type of power source, but within the atmosphere they have to switch to another, and that gives off a signature. So,
I heard that they were monitoring anti-neutrinos and a frequency
exactly.
to know to appear.
So it's quite possible that they are holding on to that data and not telling us exactly what that signature is, but they look for it all the time.
Well, I saw them. So anyway, I want to say thank you, Jason, and thank you for your service.
Yeah,
I'm going to drop that, but I would really like to speak with you again. So thanks, Jason.
You're welcome.
We'll have a few more questions. The two guys on the bottom, you can ask a question, and a few more, and call it a day. Go on.
Okay.
Yes, Jason. I wanted to ask you a question about a couple of 4chan posters. Normally, I wouldn't pay attention to something like that, except the second one made several statements that I've run across before. And he claimed to be a scientist that worked on reverse engineering in the UK. And he talked about a USO base near Bermuda that manufactures some of the UAPs, and that it is running out of material to make them, and that it is supposed to leave in 2027, but its purpose here was to protect us. Do you think there's any truth to that? Does that have anything to do with the 2027 date? And does it possibly have anything to do with Patrick Jackson's theory on the sphere network? And one last statement, on the reverse engineering, there's a book out, and I've gotten to know the guy who published it. It's called Engineering Infinity, and it is based on a Russian scientist journal from a reverse engineering program in the Soviet Union back during the Cold War. And the physics contained in it are unbelievable. But it was found among his belongings after he died by his daughter. If you're not familiar with it, if you want to send me an email privately or whatever, I'll link you to it so you can download it.
Yeah, send it to, well, this is for anybody who's listening as well. If you want to email me something, it's my last name, SANDS, like sands on the beach, and then I'll do this phonetically so nobody gets it wrong. Tango, Romeo, Oscar, Mama. It's all one word. Sandstrom, not sandstorm, Sandstrom. And then 001. That's all part of the first word. Then at hotmail.com. That's how you get a hold of me. Or you can, chat with me here on Telegram or excuse me, TikTok, all that good stuff. I'm also on X. That's one of my first places I went public. But yeah, I would say to respond to you that no, I don't think it's part of the 2025, 2035 return. That's a totally different thing. That is the NHI coming back for their stuff. I do know that I agree with what Representative Tim Burchett had mentioned about the 5 to 6 underwater bases around the Earth. I agree with him that is a very lucrative place, that if I were an NHI, that's exactly where I would hide. And I would imagine, they probably have spaceports that manufacture this stuff.
Do you think that highly intelligent creatures live below the surface normally?
Yes.
Because it's more, it's easier to manage than the surface.
Correct.
Less risk.
Right, and I also think that if you're very civilized and you have respect for the planet you're on, I think that that's a good way to not scar the land, so to speak, like we do, putting down streets and cities everywhere. If we lived underground, we wouldn't be doing all that.
Yeah.
Right. The young lady, the lady will ask a question, then we'll close off because Jason needs to go.
Okay.
Hi, Jason. Hi, UFO Shift. This is my first time catching you all's live. I don't necessarily have a question. Okay, so I am a channeler of information. I am a contactee, and I channel a lot of different languages. Lumerian. We're saying that you all are things down here are twist Lumerian and Andromedan. We're saying that you all are twisted down here. So to address what UFO Chip said, there are water civilizations down here, but they do not belong to those who enslaved us down here. Whether you is a lot of y'all. A lot of you channeling at one time. Lumerian, Andromedan, Orion, Sirius. Mando Shawan. We hear you. Dragon speak. Your dragon. Your dragons are with you. Speak to us. You are more than you know. Tap into that. You are more than...
Oh no, what happened?
Good call.
Sometimes we get...
That was a bit much. Although, hang on. She did mention one thing that is worth discussion, and that is the fact that, were they here to enslave us in the beginning? And then what is that situation now?
Yeah.
I think that warrants a little bit of discussion here. I believe that, yes, the Anunnaki did manipulate our DNA to become workers in the mines in ancient days. However, I think today the way that has fallen out is that perhaps there is a faction of other species that do that still, but there are others that find that quite abhorrent. Because if you look back just 2,000 millennia ago, there seems to be a lot of silence from where the ancients were constantly talking about this stuff. And then where they are now is that they're still there. You know, these bad guys that messed with us and enslaved us are still here. But today, a lot of the presence is here to preserve our way forward.
So to answer your one question about did they enslave us to get here, where we actually are from, can you all hold on, please? Where we are actually from, our worlds exploded. We floated for a good long while before we came back into being. We talk about being limitless and eternal beings, and we are. But our world exploded. And there was a lot going on at the time. Please. Your tongue has been tied for a long time. Please hold on.
That was like a corn song, doesn't it?
That is a little bit of con.
I think
it's a little bit of con. But our worlds exploded. There was a lot going on at the time. Beings that had died off, beings that had fallen from grace, so to speak. We talk about the fallen angels and things of that nature, right? Yeah. There's more outside of this planet than what you know. The things that her eyes have seen, I am one of the ships that is channeling through her right now, trying to hold her tongues back. There were, again, we were floating for a while. You all were floating for a while. Beings that had fallen, died off, etc., came back into being. What they did was they gathered you all, put you on a ship, opened other worlds, realms, and dimensions, and enslaved you while you were sleeping. Over time, space, as you call it, she has been growing, shifting, evolving, changing, like shedding things, right? And over time, in these sleeps, twilights, transmissions, and things, there were other things going on as well.
Yes,
and so the
Anunnaki, I agree with that. I agree that what happened in ancient times, it seems to have been a lot more brash in approach. But it has evolved. I would say that from what I know about the program and the contact with the NHI inside the program, that there are still some negative influences and some positive. Correct. The positive is more dominant than the negative. And that there's more protective force for this planet than there is negative.
Yes, we have been working to deal with those that sought to take advantage of you all. The Tower of Babel, that,
Thank you for your question. Sorry, Jason needs to go on to that. One last question.
No problem.
So we know you have your security clearance back. Are you going back in government? What's the plan for the future? Now hopefully you can get a job. So
it's a good question. Yes, I have my clearance back. I'm trying to think about who can I even trust at this point now that they've messed with me?
Yeah.
As a whistleblower. I feel very vindicated that they gave me my clearance back because whoever was withholding that has been wrong to do so, not just me, but other whistleblowers. And somehow, somehow, they have been told to cease and desist, at least with me. So I feel very vindicated by that. So I do feel like maybe if I work for a company that I trust, like from a previous job that I knew weren't screwing with me for being a whistleblower, maybe I'd go back to work with them. So that's what's kind of in my future. Other than that, I'm kind of focusing more on my grandkids, family time. And I'd have to tell you that, if anybody's wanting to talk to me like we're doing today, I usually set aside the first 2 weeks for at least one big talk per month.
The buses anymore.
Yeah, so once a month at the beginning 2 weeks is what I like to do. Because otherwise, if I open up the floodgates, I would not have a life. So I seem to be happy doing this once a month where we have a big discussion like we're having here.
Fantastic. And somebody asked, how did you get your security clearances back?
I don't know. Honestly, I had a friend of mine who is a security manager look into it. And I said, look, they've been playing games with my clearance. It's there. I've been told it's just deactivated, and that all it's required is for a company to pick me up. But every time I've interviewed with a company that wants to pick me up, somebody is refusing to pass my clearance to them. So I asked my friend to go back in the system just last month, and he said, "Oh, it looks like your clearance is good to go now. Somebody has reactivated it." So I don't know whether it was out of the kindness of a heart or just something else happened. So I'm clueless. There's no record at all as to who took it, who messed with it, who didn't pass it at all. It seems like all the records on my clearance have been deleted.
Thank you for the answer. Right, I guess that wraps it up. Any last remarks, Jason? Anything to look out for?
Oh, no, just that I truly enjoy. I want to tell you guys, I know you all don't get all the social media. You don't get a lot of the news out there in Europe and other parts of the world, in Australia and all that. I'm very happy to be here for you all. And I do like doing these get-togethers online. And I think it's a place where I really truly believe that we are the answer more than our governments are. And I want to leave that message with all of you, that we have the scientists, we've got the engineers, we've got the field workers that are just as capable as any government on the face of this earth. And I want us to really believe in ourselves that we can get the answers we need.
Hell yeah, that's amazing.
Thank you, Jason.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Nice to meet you, Jason.
Jason, could you repeat your email address?
Yes, it's I'll do it phonetically this time. So it's Sierra Alpha November Delta Sierra Tango Romeo Oscar Mama 001 at hotmail.com.
Sandstroll 001.
Yep, Sandstrom 001 at hotmail.com. That's me. That's the way to get a hold of me on email. If you want to get a hold of me on the social media, you can get to me on this account. On TikTok, I have my X account. It's just at Jason T. Sands, all one word. And I'll get you your texts and chats there. I'm on WhatsApp as well, but I don't want to share my phone number. I get a lot of weirdos on WhatsApp.
All sorts of baby reindeers at your door in the morning, mate, if you do that.
Yeah. So yeah, screw WhatsApp, actually. I get a lot of weirdos. Anyway, TikTok. Oh, and Instagram. Instagram, I've got an account there too. I think that one's a Jason Sands as well. So you'll always see my name, no matter what.
All right, Jason.
Hey, Jason, I got one question before you take off, if I can. You said you have parents' experiences with aliens and stuff like that. Are you a lifer? What I'm saying is, a lifer, are you continuously to have more alien contact as your life goes on?
Yep, I'll tell you this. One last thing to leave you all with, just to let you know that, yeah, this is still going on. I just recently moved to Alabama to be closer to my family and my little grandkids. And I'm sitting here in my apartment, and my kitchen and my living room are like one big space. So I'm sitting, this one day we had a big storm, and I'm sitting by the living room window, and I can see all the way to the back of the house where the porch is, and this ball of light comes down from the roof line while the power's out. So there's no electricity going on anywhere. This ball of light just comes down and just goes whoop, and then it comes through the back door as if it wasn't there. It goes about another 10 feet into the kitchen and almost into the living room, and then it disappears, and then it reappears like 3 feet in front of my face in the living room, and I get this feeling like it's looking at me, and then it makes a hard right and disappears into the wall, and I was very stunned, and I just happened to look out my living room window across the street into the tree line that's just over on this side of my apartment. And there's a whole tree line that goes down the hill. And there's 3 more of these orbs going in and out of the trees. And like I said, there was no power. The only thing I could say is, perhaps it was ball lightning, but 3 of them, all the same size. I can't explain that. I don't think scientifically anybody's ever seen 3 or 4 of them like that. So very strange. But yeah, that was my first real orb experience. That it was about the size of a softball, not a big soccer ball, smaller than a soccer ball, but bigger than a baseball, and very bright white or very bright blue color is what it looked like. But that's what happened. So yeah, it's still happening. Weird stuff's still happening.
Do you think any extraterrestrial craft that was entering an underground base would just be able to fly straight through ocean and rock, and there wouldn't necessarily need to be like a surface feature?
Yes, I have actually reviewed some videos that show them going right through land masses. Yes, as if they weren't there. Yeah.
Jason, thank you so much. I know you've probably overstayed your time.
Yeah.
Maybe next year we'll do another one at some point next year. So yeah, keep it
All right. Yep, enjoyed it. Really, thank you very much for having me.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep. God bless everybody and have a great day.
Thank you. Bye.
You, Jason.
Bye.